Hello everyone and welcome back to Crucible Storytime. Today's story is about the deer that killed my dreams. Let's just get right into this, shall we? So the story begins about the middle of summer vacation this past 2016, about a week or 2 weeks after Pokemon Go was initially launched in North America. So being in a rural area in Georgia and not having any access to any Pokestops or gyms for about 3 miles one way, 5 miles the other way, and at the time me only knowing of the route that was 5 miles away, it was really hard for me to get around in Pokemon Go. I ran out of Pokeballs, I constantly got Weedles and Pidgeys and Rattatas up the ass. So one day I actually went out to this nearby Pokestop, quote-unquote nearby, is about 5 miles out. It took 35 minutes to get there by skating on my underboard. Goes about the speed of a bike, 18, 19 miles an hour, but it was very hilly, so it would go 18 miles an hour and then 3 miles an hour uphill. So it was pretty complicated. Once I got there, I spent about 2 hours just circling the Pokestops left and right, taking over the one gym that was there. That was really annoying. And then I'd head back home with about 100 Pokeballs and a few eggs to hatch. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. But that time came about a few days later where I just ran out of Pokeballs again and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't drive anywhere. My car was totaled back home by my father. One of the pistons, or not one of the pistons, something in the motor broke. It would cost $3,000 to fix my Jeep, and it wouldn't be worth it, so the car was totaled. So this is where the story gets a little muddy. For me, I guess. So I planned a route to go back to that particular Pokestop area. There are about 5 Pokestops and a gym that I could keep circling round and round and round. And what I ended up doing was very foolish. I waited for my parents to fall asleep. It was about 10:30 p.m. They were sound asleep, and I went on a fucking secret mission to get out of the damn house and take one of the cars to drive down to that Pokestop. Mind you, this is Georgia. Georgia's got a lot of wildlife that Arizona did not have, or you would not think to, be aware of when you're driving a car. So, I wanted to get to these Pokestops really badly. I just wanted to get it over with, get done. I've snuck out of the house a million times before, and I've snuck back in. My parents were none the wiser. I checked to see if the garage door made loud noises when it opened. If I was inside the house, I checked, and it did not, so that was my cue to go into the garage, open the door, and take the car. Now, oh my god, my finger was just hovering over the garage door button for about 2 minutes, shaking. It's like, should I do this? Should I do this? I shouldn't do this. This is really stupid. You're not familiar with this area. You're not familiar. Don't do it. Don't do it. My conscience was hitting me hard in the skull. But I clicked the button. Got in the car, drove off with the lights off so that my parents wouldn't see the headlights going through the windows. Closed the garage door. Everything seemed to be okay. I had my phone on me, obviously, because, it's 10:30 at night. If anything bad were to happen, you gotta have your phone on you. Pro tip for those going out at 10:30 at night in Georgia. So, I'm a very safe driver. I had 5 years under my belt with no accidents, no nothing. I've driven in snow, I've driven in rain, I've driven in just about everything except for a hurricane or a tornado, because that shit didn't happen in Arizona. So I knew that there were quite a few deer out in Georgia. My rational thinking was they're usually out at about 6 a.m. and they're usually out again at about 4 or 5 p.m., driving back from home rush hour, typical time. So I thought, there's no fucking deer out at 10:30. They're all asleep. Why would they be out on the road at 10:30? So I was very hypercritical about where I was driving. I was not playing Pokemon Go while I was driving, because it's the stupidest fucking thing you could ever do. So surprisingly enough, I actually made it all the way over to my destination. No animals on the road, no nothing. I was very alert of my surroundings. Got over there, tried taking over the gym, was frustrated, didn't take it over, got all the resources I needed. Then was the drive home. That was the difficult part. I stopped at the last Pokestop on the way back to my house, and as I was doing that, started to notice that for some reason it was a little bit darker, and I think that's because the street lights were not on. My number one main mistake looking back was I didn't have the high beams on. I never grew up in an area where high beams were really acceptable, because if you're flashing your high beams in a neighborhood, you're kind of an ass. And if you're flashing your high beams on the highway, you're kind of an ass. So I didn't use the high beams, used regular beams, but I was still driving slow. The speed limit was about 45. I was doing about 40, going back, and I was about a mile away from home. And again, I gotta remind you, I was not playing Pokemon Go on the way back. I've already heard enough horror stories of people playing Pokemon Go while they're driving. It's fucking stupid. So I'm going down a hill back home, mile out, and I see to the left. Usually my headlights pick up the little squares of the mailboxes. I saw one of those, and I saw another pair of lights shine back at me, and I noticed those were deer eyes. I hit the brake real quick. I was like, oh shit, a deer. And I noticed that it was on the other side of the road. And I was like, oh, well, it's on the other side of the road, way ahead of me. It stopped and looked at me. This was like about a second of thought for me. It looked at me. It's on the other side of the road. There's wilderness on the left side of the road. It's going to leave to the left side of the road, which is away from me, if it were to think me a threat. So I punched the brakes. I was going 40. The brake punch got me to about 38, 37, whatnot. And I was still paying very close attention to the deer, because where there's one, there's usually more. So I looked around to make sure there weren't any others, but I was still keeping a close eye on that deer. And this whole scenario that I'm going to speak to you about is about 8 seconds of time. I had all these thoughts rushing through my head. So I'm still looking at the deer. I'm going down the hill, and I'm going about 38. I've slowed considerably, about 35, 34, just kind of slowing it down, because I am going downhill, and it's a lot harder to stop a car downhill. The deer was looking at me, and I saw its body, its front portion start to turn left. It turning left meant it was turning towards me. And right when I saw those front legs start going for the road, because mind you, it was off the road. It was going towards the road again. For whatever the fuck reason, I fucking slammed on the brakes harder than I ever have in my entire fucking life. And it sprinted towards me, not away from me, towards the wilderness that it was already close to, towards me to the other side, which was also wilderness. In the about 2 seconds, 2 fucking seconds that it was headed towards me, I can't stress this enough. It's the stupidest fucking thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like, there's the Prometheus way of running away from things, which is like, it's going your way and you're running straight. And then there's the I'm a fucking idiot way of running away from things, where it's like, oh, there's the thing that's gonna kill me. Let's run towards it. Oh, this motherfucking deer, I swear to God. In the 2 seconds that it took for my car to start slowing to a stop and the deer coming ever close to me, I was screaming, oh fuck, no, there's no fucking way, this can't be happening. No, I refuse to believe this bullshit. And it was like the most climactic part of any show you've ever seen. It's like, oh my god, is he gonna make it? Is he gonna make it? Is he gonna get out of this alive? I didn't get out of it. I didn't get out of that shit. My car, I did not hit the brakes fast enough, because I didn't have enough time. I did not have enough time. I slowed to about 10 to 12 miles an hour from my initial 30, 35, and I hit the deer. And it was a doe, by the way, if you're wondering. No antlers. No antlers were hitting the windshield or anything, so that would have been even worse. It was a doe. It hit the front left bumper, and it slammed around to my door So you can kind of tell that I didn't hit this thing head on, and it approached me. Like, I had all the proof I needed that I didn't even need a video for. Like, that's a weird place to hit a deer. So, the second I heard the ka-thunk, I screamed louder than I could imagine me screaming. I screamed for about 10 seconds in rage, in fear, in hatred for what the hell was going on. And I saw the deer launch forward. It flipped in the air sideways. It rolled like a fucking hot dog. And it hit its back on the road. And again, in the second I was thinking about this, is like, this bitch better not be dead. I don't want to have to drag a dead deer off the fucking road. That's a pain in the ass. And I don't want to have to take a shower when I get back home, even though I was already sweating bullets. So the deer was still kicking. It was still flailing its legs around. So it turned around, got up, and bolted off. Whether it was dead or alive, I was going to be pissed at it. But I was really pissed that this fucker got away scot-free. I didn't see any broken bones or anything. I'm pretty sure it's okay. But I just stopped in the middle of the road. And I was just screaming. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was in a dream. I had never in my entire life been in an accident. But I've never been in an accident. Nothing bad has ever happened to me. I've always driven the speed limit, never gotten pulled over for a ticket, nothing. My 5 years of perfect driving down the shitter because this dumbass deer decided to go fucking left instead of forward. What a fucking dumbass. So, after my initial rage and screaming and cussing beyond belief, I drove home. It was only about a mile off. I knew where I was going, and I start pulling into my neighborhood. And I think, alright, so I don't see any dents from where I am. I didn't see any dents in the hood or on the door. The airbags did not deploy. So that's good. That's about $2,000 that didn't have to be spent on airbags. So I'm in the neighborhood now, and I'm just thinking, please God, let this car have only the slightest fucking ding so I can get away with this. And I try to open the door, and it won't budge. And I thought, I'm fucked. The door's broken, isn't it? And I can actually push it open. I pushed the door open. And I looked at the damage, and it dented not the door itself, but the thing right beside the door. I've got pictures. You can see the pictures, I guess. It dented the thing beside the door so that it would prevent the door from opening. Not to the point where you can't open it, but it'll make a the whole time you opened it, every time you'd open it or close it. And the headlights were fine. There was a ding in the front. The bumper was misaligned. And there was that ding on the side. It wasn't terrible. Like, honestly, this was probably the best possible outcome anyone could ever have from hitting a deer. Especially at like 10:30 when you're kind of not really expecting a deer. But I guess I'm lucky that I got away. Not really scot-free. I got quite the scolding. My dad already hit a deer. He hit a deer like week 1 of Georgia. So there was that. And the minute I told him, he was like halfway between, I'm proud of you, son, and also like, well, fuck, we gotta fix this car. So, you know, we hugged it out. There was a lot of support, and it's just like, you know what you did wrong. It's really shitty. It's quite odd. You're out. You're okay. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. Before I end the story, I do have to say that I don't know. I was in panic mode the second I drove that car back in the garage. I was fucking stressed as shit. So I went up to my room. So I headed to my room to clean it because, you know, one less thing for mom to yell at you for. I cleaned my room. I got all the Coke cans and wrappers and all that shit out of there. And the recycling was outside. As I walked outside, I noticed something a bit odd. A big thing looming in the background. It was that fucking deer. It was a doe. It was the same size as the one I struck and it had some markings on it that looked eerily suspicious. And it looked at me, and it fucking bolted, and I screamed at it again. I was like, "You fucking bitch! Get out of here, you shithead!" So that's the end of the deer story. That's the end of my perfect driving record. That's the end of that PT Cruiser. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you like this Crucible story time, go ahead and leave a like at the bottom, or subscribe for more, because we got a lot more Crucible story times coming up, especially now that we're in school, and we have a lot more stories to tell. See you next time.